Hey everybody, I'd like to talk about two tools that I've discovered recently from a website called sixstringers.com. One is the FretMaestro, another is the FretFixxer. I bought both of them. I was blown away by the results that I was able to get on my, I've used them on about 7 guitars. I've used them on all the guitars you see back there, and I used them most recently on this SG. I use both of the tools for different purposes, and I haven't been paid by Six Stringers, or I wasn't sent the tools. I bought them both myself and wanted to learn how to use them because I have sent in quite a number of guitars over the years to luthiers to work on the frets, and they seem to come back fine, but you know, what do I really know about if it's good or not? If it plays, then I'm a happy customer. But once I used this tool and really learned how to use it, it made a huge difference in the way that my guitars feel, how they sound, how they come alive. They are more vibrant, they're easier to play. So I wanted to make a video to just show that this tool might do the same for you if you're willing to put a little effort and really take the instructions that are given for it very seriously, because they're a precision instrument, and you have to develop some muscle memory in your hands, your awareness of how the guitar works. And I'm not a professional luthier. I've had guitars worked on, obviously, probably 30 plus years, and I've even had about 3 guitars plecked. As you know, that particular process is not cheap, and the results come back pretty amazing. Again, you don't know what you don't know until you try something else. However, that's an expensive solution if you're going to send it into a precision machine to have the frets leveled. And I found that when I used this tool and learned how to use either the Maestro or the FretFixxer, I got better results than my guitars that were plecked. I actually took 2 of my plecked guitars and checked them with the description that I'm going to provide for you, and got better results than when my guitar was plecked. So I'm a convert at this point to doing it myself. It does take a little bit of patience. You do have to have a fair amount of patience to learn the steps, follow through with the steps, and get the results that you're looking for. So this is the guitar that I'm going to put on the bench, and I'll show you my process for determining if it was best to do with the Maestro or the FretFixxer. Like I said, I've used I've used both tools on about 7 guitars, and I've done more with the FretFixxer. I've done more guitars with FretFixxer, but I came to the Maestro afterwards because it was easier to use. But now that I'm developing the chops for the Maestro, I'm pretty convinced to use that on all my guitars, and I have a fair number of them to work on. But the results on just this SG, this plays so much nicer and is so much better in tune. As you know, with this neck and body situation here, this is it's easy to play out of tune. I play with a lot lighter touch now. The thing rings in tune. Close harmonies sound awesome. I can play anywhere on the neck and get a clear bell-like sound that I couldn't do before. I'll do an octave and fifths kind of comparison here. So octaves. Clear and in tune. Let's do fifths. There's fourths, fifths, it's really sound. All open strings are beautifully balanced. One test I like to do is is with all 6 strings, bar chord, and then an inverted chord. Down here. So, let me take you to the bench. I'll show you the work I did on this particular guitar. I did the same though on this 335. This plays like a new guitar. In the back, that's a 1957 ES 225. Plays a lot better than it did before, although it does have the trapeze tailpiece, which is a challenge with the intonation on the highest frets. The Ibanez GB10 was also maestroed, and the Jazz Master plays very, very well too. The Gretsch was plecked previously, and it plays better now that it was, I did an Omni fret leveling job on that, and it plays better than when it was plecked. So let's check it out.
All right, here are the 2 tools. This first one is the FretFixxer. It's 2 pieces. It's this stainless steel bar. It's quite heavy. Has the diamond file in a conical shape. It has 4 sides to adjust for a 3-fret span along the neck for any, high frets that you might find across the board. There's a handle. The handle, though, you do want to grip tightly, as that bar could fall out, and we don't want that to fall on our guitars. So do know about that. But that works really well. I've used it on most of my guitars so far. This is the Omni. The Omni is a file that lets you level your frets across any number of radius that you might have on your guitars. They do make Maestro for individual radius guitars, but if you get the Omni, it will take a little more work, a little more time, because it's a straight edge at the bottom there, but it will follow the radius of the guitar fingerboard in order to give you the fret leveling. There's these, those are the adjusters for the height of the files that you get. You can see they are numbered according to the kind of filing you're going to be doing, the height of the file. Here are the 3 files you get. The V is the crowning file. We actually start with that. That'll work on any kind of frets, jumbo frets, thin frets, whatever you have. Here's a 150 grit. This is what I do. This does the heavy filing. Here's the 300 grit. This is my finishing file. This nail just allows you to remove the files from the handle. Note that you do want to, I'll explain this in the video later, but you do want to keep the setting the same on both sides, and you want to ensure that they're locked into place. And once you get them in place, they don't move unless you have an intent to move them. That's how you grip it. You want to make sure you're not moving the adjusters. Here's removing the file with the nail and then going to another file. That's pretty much it. That's the tool. It does come with some glide strip to ensure a precision cut for each of the frets. I'll show you that a little bit later in the video. So let's look at the SG on the bench. So the first step is, this was a game changer for me too, was to ensuring that you have an absolutely flat fingerboard. And so your truss rod is an important part of that adjustment. It is the adjustment for a flat fingerboard, and it's what you're aiming to achieve when you check it with a straight edge. So I'm removing the strings on this guitar, and I'm going to check to see if there is any relief on the guitar neck. Now, I bought these on Amazon, and the nice thing about Six Stringers is he gives you links to all the tools you're going to need. So I just clicked on the link, and that was those are the files. This is a 24 3/4 scale length. I'm going to darken the room so that I can inspect the back and any bowing or any convex shape that I might encounter. I'm using the frets that don't have fret markers to determine that, and I'm discovering here that I have some relief in the neck even when it's not strung up. So I want to raise that truss rod a little bit so that I can get it flush with the straight edge, that there is no gaps. That was a big revelation to me. And we'll also talk about the straightness of the neck after the setup for further fine-tuning. So we like that. Let's go on to the next step. So now we're taking a rocker straight edge here, and we're determining which frets are high in relation to its neighbor fret. Now, this is a quick fix approach. If you only have a little bit of this throughout the neck, the FretFixxer is a really excellent tool to use because it'll shave off the thousandths that you need to get level frets for a relatively non-issue guitar with regards to frets. As I'm going through, and this is the first time I've done this, you're seeing me discover this for the first time, and I'm talking about it later here, but I'm discovering and I'm marking with a Sharpie where I might find high frets. And if it's determined that I have quite a few high frets, that's a job for Maestro. And as I said earlier, if you only have, say, 25 3/4 inch scale length guitars, then you might want to save yourself some effort and just get the Maestro designed for that particular radius. As I have a lot of guitars with different radius, I got the Omni, and so the nice thing about that is that it'll work on any guitar, any radius that you have. Now I'm marking the high frets for reference. The basic idea in using the Maestro is how high are the frets. This is where the digital gauge comes in. That is also, there's a link on where to get that. And what I'm determining here is I'm going to use this nut slot gauge as a way of determining the height of the fret. Six Stringers supplies this worksheet called a fret forensics it's a blank sheet, and you can see me. This is some of the work I've done on Pat. There's the 335 work I did, and I'm documenting the height of the frets, and I need to find which is the lowest fret, because since we can't add metal to the frets, we need to file higher frets. I've discovered that I can live with 1, 2, maybe 3 thousandths of an inch variance. But this is a precision tool, and you can get to within 0.0005 precision. And the beautiful thing about guitars today, or in the modern era, I guess, is that when they're set up and everything is level within that kind of tolerance, you really get a superior playing instrument. So now you're seeing me take my measurements with the digital gauge, and I'm doing it across 3 parts of the fret: the high E, the low E, and the middle of the fret. And this gives me a visual cue as to where the high frets are. And you can see that 4th fret is 56 thousandths on the high treble side. Where's my lowest fret is what I'm looking for. So that's pretty high in relation to the one at the end on the 19th fret. It's 48 thousandths. And there's also a 49.5. So now that I've got my worksheet complete, I'm going to use the tool included with the Maestro to determine what setting I'm going to use on the Maestro to get me to the height of the lowest fret. And this tool is actually really accurate. This little, I forgot the kind of material it is, but it corresponds to the settings on the Maestro tool itself. And I was surprised. Now I'm discovering here that it doesn't fit, however, on the high frets. So I can't use the lowest fret I discovered with the digital gauge. I'm going to go down to the lower. There was one that was the lower fret. The trick to this tool here, is you want to find out where on the tool that it is not rocking, and you hold down close to the fretboard, and then you go back 1 number to where it is rocking. So I'm pointing to a 4. 4 is where it rocks. That means 3, which is a higher, slightly, I think it's 3 thousandths of an inch, is where it does rock. 4 is where it rocks, and 3 would be the setting. So I mark it with a Sharpie. Here is the PET film. It's 5 thousandths of an inch thick. It doesn't compress like blue tape does, so you use this in place of blue tape when you see the filing action. You get a sheet of this with the product, but if you use it up, you can buy it yourself on Amazon. Again, there's a link, and you score it in the back so that you can peel it easily, and it's reusable. It lasts a long time and doesn't compress. So I am applying it to the border of that low fret, and I know I've got 5 thousandths of an inch from the fretboard. Keep in mind that I've heard there are comments about, no fingerboard is absolutely straight, or you can't trust the radius of the guitar to provide an accurate result up and down the fingerboard. But my results, my experience is that this is absolutely does work as designed. You leave a 1/16th of an inch gap for the filings to fall into. And you notice the setting now. I determined earlier with the forensics worksheet, or the little tool there, the brown tool, to set it to 3, and I begin filing. And what I'm trying to do here is reduce the Sharpie on that fret by 50%. And I'm using the crowning file. I'm using the file marked V to essentially shave in that black mark, that Sharpie mark. And I'll find out here that at a setting of 3, I'm not removing too much. And so we don't want to take unnecessary metal. I'm marking again to see if I can get a better idea. And you can see I've added Scotch tape. And so that's yet another 3,000, that's 0.0005 thickness to elevate the glide strip a little higher, and then that allows me to then move the setting to 4 on the gauge. So you can see it's a real precision kind of discovery you're doing here to get that Sharpie to 50%. And I think as I recall this, when I made this video, I do come to the conclusion that I can go with a setting of 4 and no Scotch tape. So this is what you discover is as you essentially remove just the Sharpie at the top point. Then once you've removed the Sharpie from its highest point, you determine the setting on the Maestro in which to file the rest of the frets to match it. Now with the Omni, you can see me, I'm filing in the arc of the radius, which a 12-inch radius for this SG is fairly flat. But if you don't follow the arch of the radius, you run the risk of not really doing any filing on both the high or low side, and you will focus more on the center. So you really need to be mindful of the direction and the radius and follow through. I'm switching out different grits. I had a 150 after that crowning file. Now I switched to the 300 to finish, and that Sharpie is removed, and I'm checking with the digital gauge. And what I'll discover is that to determine that setting, and I believe it was 48 thousandths is where my goal, 47 thousandths might have been the goal I was going for. There's my final setting. I'm back to the 150 grit, which takes off a fair amount of metal. The crowning makes it easier. It's a heavy lifter, and then you do the 150 and finish with the 300. You do that I do that with every fret. Some people don't use the crowning file, but the 150, it will make the 150 easier. This will remove the small divots you have also from string wear, and that's always a good thing. We want, like new level frets. It's a patience game. This is not, you could always take breaks. I probably would recommend that, but once I get started, I'm eager to get it done, and so I continue on. So I don't have a display there, but 51 now is 49, and I'll continue down to, I think my target was 48. The digital gauge isn't perfect, and it is so sensitive. If you rise it up the fret, you'll get a different reading. If you can't swivel the head, that's why I'm using the little mirror to flick the other side to get the other side of the neck. That was the hardest learning curve, was the digital gauge. This is all muscle memory. The more you do it, I believe the better you get at it. So now I've advanced up to the last couple frets there, and it's the same process. I already know what the setting is, and notice every time I switch the files, I'm very cognizant of the setting on the gauge. We don't want that to move to a higher number, or else we would start filing more metal away than the other frets, and we would be back to square one. So I've finished, and so we're going to put strings back on, and we're going to discover if there's any buzzes or how we did. My first guitar I was doing this a lot because I was not finishing the filing job, and I would have, an 8th fret buzz or a 10th fret buzz. Now I'm doing really fairly well in that when I finish, I I generally get it done. So I'm tuning up. I've got the strings back on. Now I haven't done any polishing yet, because if I've got more filing to do, I'm not going to want to finish polishing and then have to file again. It did come out fine. Now I'm checking the radius with the string at tension, and I'm looking for just quick buzzes, just things that make sure that it's not because the neck is too flat at tension, and I might want to add. Now I'm checking the height of the nut slot. So I'm using the tool. That digital gauge is actually what that's designed for. And I determined that nut slot was actually high. These are all related, and if they all need to be addressed if you want this kind of precision to pan out for you. So I'm filing that nut slot. That was all set. I'm doing an intonation adjustment. I'll do this strapped on my body, as intonation is something you want to do while you're playing, but I'm roughing it in here. All right, now I'm happy with the intonation and the nut slots. I'm going to polish the frets. I love that fret eraser. It comes in 3 grits. I've also got some sandpaper. Here I'm using a little isopropyl alcohol just to clean the gunk from the filing and the PET tape before I polish. I've used 2 different methods for polishing. You can use the blue tape method. That's if you've got time to go ahead and tape up all the frets. You may want to use another tool that you can get to cover the frets. I'll show that later. There's 3 grits, so this is the 150, and I just want to make sure that I'm polishing and I'm actually getting rid of the filings or the marks of the diamond file. After every filing, you do want to polish your frets. You can't get away from that. This is what gives you the buttery bends when you've done this sufficiently. I've taped off the first 6 frets to show this example. I also will use wet sandpaper, 1200, 400, 1200 grit. I'll wet it a little bit, and that really works well too for removing just that final little bit of grit. Finally, I'll finish off with some compound fret polish, and I will apply that lightly and work that in with a cloth. That really adds the mirror finish that we're looking for. I also show I will do this process with the fret guard. Here's cleaning off just a little more gunk with the isopropyl before I'm going to apply oil. I like lemon oil on this rosewood. So clean cloth, apply liberally, let it soak in, wipe off any excess. Tons of videos on all this. I'm just showing you the whole setup and how I'm doing it and what's working for me. This is by the way, this is the order that I'm doing. And what you're seeing here is the order of the setup. And here's some graphite, clear graphite. There's a lot of different products here. I put that in. These are I think these are the strings that I had. I'll check the radius of the strings, bring that back to the the bridge and the tailpiece, and not a whole lot of adjustment there with this guitar. Now I'm checking the pickup height and using I use the factory defaults just for a ballpark. I'm going to clean pots and switches. I've got some deoxit F5 for metal on plastic parts. This worked great. That pot was scratchy, or that switch rather was scratchy. So this is a quick fix without removing it, and that works well. So that is good to go. And that's it. That brings me back to the opening video, and that was the results. I hope you enjoyed this setup, and I hope you consider those tools. I've got another video on the FretFixxer on a Ibanez GB10. That works well too. Thanks a lot.